This month, we are dedicating to intellectual wellness. And today, we are going to share information on how to apply for schools abroad. I am an international faculty in the United States. I know how I applied to get here. It can be done. And I know people coming in every day, coming to school, growing in school. So I'm inviting a few friends to join me and share their experiences so that you out there, if you're considering applying to school abroad, this is just an example. This is the United States, but maybe you can also use that for other countries out there. So join us and let's meet our guest for today. Yeah, Darius, you didn't say anything about money. How did you fund your application?
Thank you so much. Personally, this is one thing that I say, and I think I can be very emphatic here. It's not worth paying money for your PhD program. It's not worth it. If you can afford it, whether or I keep saying it, whether or not you can afford it, it's not worth it. Because PhD, especially in the sciences, or let me limit this discussion of let me limit my statement to PhD in the biomedical science, because that's where I belong.
Okay.
It's not worth to say that, okay, I have a PhD and so I'm going to pay for my PhD. I have a PhD and I'm going to pay for my research. No, it's not worth it. Now, for me, all those around me, thankfully, who had gone for PhDs, I knew were funded.
Okay.
So in my mind, it's either there's a full funding or there's nothing like a partial fund. No, I'm not taking anything like that. And going in, I knew I was going for full funding, nothing short of that. And more often than not, there are only a few schools in the US who will offer you a PhD in the biomedical sciences without giving you funding. Nearly all schools will give you substantial funding, except in cases like what Bernard described, where your application doesn't come early. And so they say that, okay, our grants can take care of 10, but our research labs can take care of 12 or 13. So you can come in. Even with that, when you enter, there will still be opportunities for you to apply for some scholarships here and there. I mean, within the circles, but for them to have responsibility for you or financial responsibility for you from the beginning, it's important that you send in your application early. So funding is, yes, very important and very critical. I was always looking at schools that were going to give full funding, and thankfully UND did. And so it wasn't anything for me to think about. It wasn't anything for me to now decide that, okay, where am I going to get funds from? Where am I going to get this? Nope. The experience that my lecturers and then my friends who are taking the lead told us was that, okay, usually in the biomedical sciences, once you put in your application, it goes through. Now, for the purposes of your audience, your thriving friends, I know not all of them in biomedical sciences. You have some of them in arts and psychology and philosophy and everywhere. It still applies that it is possible to get funding for your PhD. It's so much possible to get it. I personally would not advise anybody to go into a PhD program that is not giving you funding at all. It should be able to give you funding because PhD is research, and every research has got funding. Every research is funded. If you don't have funds, your research cannot thrive. So if you say you are doing research, and whatever area you're going to do the research in has got some funding. So everyone, when you're apply for scholarships, try to get scholarships, and it's possible. You have to be committed to it. You have to put in a good application because everybody wants to be funded, and usually these slots are for few. So you have to consciously put in a competitive application, put in a good package, make sure that you have your documents on point, and then aim at nothing but a funded PhD or master's.
Okay. As a professor, I need to speak. Okay, so we're talking about funding doesn't mean like there is free money somewhere that somebody just takes and give it to you that, hey, take this money, pay for your fees, go. No. You are offering something in exchange for that tuition waiver or funding. So from what Darius and Bernard are both saying is the same thing. Most professors will apply for different funding opportunities like grants to work on their research. And then they will employ these graduate students to help them. Am I right? Give me a note. Yes. So instead of hiring somebody from outside, graduate students would do this research with their professors, and it's the learning opportunity for them. And then the professor is also benefiting because you are doing this research together. You can publish together. You are finding whatever you people are finding together.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, you are all served. It's not like free money is there. So why are they not giving me this free money? So you have to actually look into schools that the professors are productive. Not all schools have money. Keep that in mind. Not all schools have money. Some really do not have the funding because professors are probably more of a teaching institution. If they are teaching more than research, they probably do not have so much to spare. But if it's a research institution, it's most likely that money will be there. Who wants to comment on this?
Yes, and I absolutely agree with you. So as we hear, being funded for a PhD doesn't mean we are only doing our classroom work. We do lots of research. We spend a lot of time in the lab, and so usually when you are giving funding, it just means that you work as a graduate research assistant or you work as a teaching assistant. I mean, you offer some kind of intellectual service, and that's what we call funding. So you have to be able to demonstrate, and that's a key word, to demonstrate that you are capable of taking on responsibilities as a graduate research assistant or as a teaching assistant or as a field assistant. I mean, depending on which field you are in, you should demonstrate your ability to assist in research because the funds are coming from grants, and these grants I know run the research, and so you should be able to demonstrate that you can function in a research unit and take on assignments.
Yeah. And then most social sciences may not have as much funding as the basic sciences. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah.
Because our research, even when we have money, is not huge. So maybe you end up having partial funding or something like that. So when Darius talks about look for full funding, I think that it depends on the program, it depends on the institution, it depends on the country. Do your research. Professors need help. You have to be competitive because the applications, everybody is applying. And they are all good students. So what are you offering? What are you offering? Bernard, is there anything else you will say to that?
I think Darius has elaborated more on that. So the money is not a free money. You will be rendering a service. As for that one, you should be prepared, and then it comes with a lot of mental toughness because you get to spend practically most of your time in the labs, and then you also have to be reading for your own research. And if there is maybe a lab project ongoing, you have to contribute to the lab project because you've been assigned portions of it. And sometimes, especially for me, most of the equipment that we've been using, I'm just having my first time hands-on them. So you have to go through the required training, and then you have to build your schedule around someone's schedule because they are available. They are the ones going to teach you the how to operate some of these equipment. So if you do not know, you can watch how it's being operated on YouTube or read on them. But still, you need someone to be there to guide you as to, okay, we put this here, we do them here. And then most of the labs have lab technicians who will gladly kind of lend a helping hand when the need be. But then my point is that you just have to prime yourself for the work because the money is not free money, and then you are being funded for, I think, a period of time. So you as an individual, you have to put in the effort to get as much as out of the time that you are being funded, and make sure you are also going through your proceeding through your research successfully. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of hours, but then this is what you have signed up to do. So yeah, as soon as you come in and then you're able to adapt into the system, I think you should be able to give your best to merit the money that you are being paid here.
And it can be, they can withdraw funding if you're not being productive. So
yeah, I think so.
if you were just wasting somebody's money, they can easily withdraw the fund and then you go back home. Okay, so Darius, I mean, what have you learned through this process? If somebody is starting afresh, what would be your advice for the person?
So, thank you so much. Bernard had given you a website to start from. That's if you do not have, like in my case, I had a pool of friends who I was learning from, so I didn't have to go through that route. If you don't have that opportunity, you can take what the website that Bernard shared a while ago, and then you work around it. Now, this is what I tell people when I have the chance to tell them, okay, when you are doing it, Bernard said he had a diary or a notebook. Yes, it would be great for you to have an Excel spreadsheet or something for each and every one of them that you do. Take note of the school, take note of what recommendations are required, how many people you need to write recommendations on your behalf. So let's say you go to school one, you put the name of the school there, you copy the admission link, there was a time a friend of mine was going to apply to schools. He's in Albany now. And then he was telling me, we're applying together then. And he says, Charlie, the schools, if I go, I don't really see the admission link. And I'm like, it takes time. You have to find it because you have to go to graduate school. You have to go this, you have to go there. So when you go through the hassle to find some of those things, you copy the admission link, you put it in there. So you say, okay, school number 1, I have admission, the school name, I have a link to the admission or the application. You write the requirements. If they need 4 recommendations, you write it. You write a date that you need to submit your application, or let's say the deadline. And then if they have any special requirements, like exam, like GRE, like TOEFL, you have to note that also. And then one thing that I always tell people is that you can always ask for waivers for some of the requirements. You can ask them, well, do I still need a waiver because I trained? My training or my teaching was in English, and English is our official language. You can ask for a waiver. You can even ask for waivers for your application
fee.
You can ask for a waiver. Put in an application and say that because you would have noted that, okay, this school will need applications fee of $60. They need 3 recommendations by this date, and this is the program I'm going to apply. Make sure you have an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document or a notebook where all of these details are. I'll advise that you can put it into a soft copy so that it will be easier to copy things around. And then you can, let's say, copy a link, open it. You can, because applications are such that you cannot finish it at one point. And I would not advise anybody to sit down and finish an application at one point. Take time, at least give yourself 2 or 3 days. You open it, you start it, you go through, you leave it, you come back the next day, you look at it again and again. Make sure that you are avoiding mistakes in your document. Where you're supposed to put SOP, then you go and put passport picture there. Where you're supposed to put passport picture, you go and put transcripts there. Organize all of your documents. Have your transcripts, have your SOPs, have these documents reviewed by people who have made it through the process. Give it to them. Every time you give your document to someone to read, trusted people who can look at your documents for you, they will always give you some input. They'll make some input. So you consider all of those things. Have all of your document. When you sit down, you open the application, you go through. Wherever you get to, you stop, you come back to it again, you go through, wherever you get to stop. And then when you finish, you don't submit it. You come back again to make sure that you have gone through the process. You have to be diligent, and you have to make sure that you are doing everything meticulously. Pay attention to details and make sure that your application is without errors, because there are many applications that will be considered. And so the easy way to eliminate that, the way to make things easy for the committee, is to just throw out those who do not submit proper applications, those who do not do things right. It makes their work easy. You just put those ones aside. If your application is riddled with mistakes, it can put the proposal of the committee off. So have all of the documents that you need, have them proofread by yourself again and again. I remember what the story of my SOP looked like because I had read it again and again and again. So I can tell you how many paragraphs I have in there. I can tell you what's in paragraph 1, what's in paragraph 2, what's in paragraph 3, just because I had read it. It's just like reading, like the way we all read Cinderella or we all read Beauty and the Beast or Snow White. have the story in your head. If anybody asks you that, okay, what do you have in paragraph 4 of your SOP or on your CV, you know what is there. Put your CV together, make sure it's aesthetically beautiful. Anybody who looks at your CV will want to look at it again and again and again. There was a guy in my department who was even behind me. I was a TA to him. And one day I saw his CV and I was so amazed. I'm not surprised that he got into an Ivy League school for his PhD. He got into Stanford. And not only did he get into Stanford, he got really top schools, because I didn't even know. I saw his CV and I was like, oh, this is beautiful. I want to read it again and again and again. I entered one of the faculty's office and his CV was lying on the table. And then I read it, because the faculty it was someone I was working with. I was like, oh, is that so and so CV? He said, yes, can I have a look at it? And I looked at it and it was so beautiful. Nicely. The content was great. I read it, and till date, if I get it, I'm going to read it again and again and again. Make sure your CV is appealing to read. Your SOP is appealing. Anybody who looks at it should enjoy the story that you are telling, should appreciate the story that you are telling. It should say everything about you, that, hey, I'm a good guy out here. I know this and this and this. I'm ready to learn this and this and this. And when you bring me into your program, I bring this on board, this on board, this on board. Everybody wants to bring in some addition. Mind you, the US especially pay for productivity. They don't just pay for anything. They pay for productive. So whenever they give you funding or program, it means that you're going to be productive. So tell them how you are going to be productive. Let them convince them that, okay, you're going to be productive. And you can only do that in your document, because they look at your document before they invite you for an interview. So you don't, it's not the reverse. So make sure that your document is going to speak well of you before your interview is scheduled. And then that will be a good opportunity for you to tell them more about whatever you have written in those documents. So for me, put your documents together, then organize them in a Word spreadsheet, MS Excel or MS Word, so that you can copy and paste things. And when you have finished everything, you can highlight it and say, okay, check, this is done. When you do something and say, okay, check, this is done. So you keep checking things, and then you make sure that by the deadline, you have submitted your application. I guess that will be it for me.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Like, now you're making me think about my CV. I'm like, here, Ade, what do I do? My CV doesn't look good, though. I have to go and modify, because Darius says it has to look so good that you want to read it again and again. Well, I have a job, so maybe I'm safe. It's not that bad.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, Bernard, you can go ahead and share.
Okay, so to add to what Darius said, in terms of the application process, I think you should also start early. It gives you a bit of an advantage, because mind you, you are competing with students from across the world. You have Indians. When you go to India, this whole graduate application thing is a full-time business on its own, where they actually literally guide students through each step of the process. So I think you should give it a time, your time, and then if possible, do it yourself. If possible, do it yourself. Don't go and pay any money to anybody to be doing applications on your behalf, and then by the time you realize they are uploading documents that do not speak to the kind of an individual that you claim you are. So do it yourself, and I think honesty too should be the key thing here. Don't put anything on your CV that you cannot defend on any day. Never put anything on your CV that you cannot defend on any day, because you are going to be called for an interview. And if you don't take care, you might have the best of grades, the best of research experiences, and then something minute on your CV might put the whole interview panel off, and then they might end up not recommending you for admission. This is a personal experience. During my interview, because I'm a physician assistant, one of the panel, he's a surgeon, and then he's also, I think he's the assistant dean. So he was part of the of the panel. So he asked me that why am I trying to switch from clinical practice to basic science? And then I gave the initial reason that I gave to you here. And then he said that am I conversant with the laboratories? So then I told him that no, but the basic ones that we did during my undergrad, that's what I know. And then so on my CV, I had put on it that we did gram staining. So I think during my undergrad, we did where we pick onion and then you slice them and then you put some reagent on it and then you view it under microscope. So when so it was one lady, she was a student on the panel. So she asked that on my CV, this is what I said. I said I've done gram stain. Which of the gram stainings that I did? And then I explained to her that this is the one that I did. So assuming I had put something, and then I just to impress the committee, and then they ask you that okay, you said you've done flow cytometry. What and what do we do when you are going to do flow cytometry? I would have been there and then I would look stupid in front of the whole committee. So I think that just be honest with yourself. Yes, you might want to sell yourself, but don't be so you get so high that you put stuff that do not reflect who you think you are, and then on the day of your interview they ask questions based on your CV, because on the day of my interview they never asked any question outside of my CV, outside of my SOP. They asked about my research experience, the things that I had put on my SOP. Was those things that they began to ask questions about. So nobody is going to ask questions outside of, they are not going to ask you hardcore questions that maybe you would have to read before you have to come and answer them. But you are going to answer questions based on the documents you submitted to them. So just make sure that you don't go and pay, because sometimes I know that these agencies, in their bid to maximize profit, they lure people into all kinds of things that they will write nice things about you that do not necessarily reflect who you are. But I think that you can do it yourself. Write your own compelling statement of purpose. And then if you think that you want somebody to spice it up for you, it is what you have that I'm going to spice it up. I'm not going to conjure anything and come and put it on your SOP for you. But it's what the basic or background information that you have given me. That's what I'm going to add certain things to it so that it can catch the attention of whoever that is reading it. So do it yourself. That's the point I'm trying to drive home. Do it yourself. Don't go and pay any money to any group of individuals who claim to know it all when it comes to graduate applications and then what have you. And then the other thing too that I also want to bring to the attention is the recommendation letters. You know, back home, you go to the Department of maybe biology, they have a standard recommendation letter. It's a 1-page recommendation letter, and then they have Darius's name there. So the moment Bernard comes out, oh, I need a recommendation letter, they ask you to go and pay some money, and then you come to the departmental secretary's office, and she will just delete Darius's name. They will put Bernard's name, and that's all. It doesn't speak to you as an individual. So what I would try to tell people is that they should try and identify faculty members and professors back home who can really take time out of their busy schedules and really write something good about them. Because I've heard stories that when you go to India and all those places, these people, the professors will tell the people to go and write, and then they have.
Oh, you can speak. We can hear you.
Okay. So, and then they have these agencies that they write about the people, sometimes 2 pages, and then they will send it back to the professors, and the professors will just edit and then they will sign. So if you have somebody writing a recommendation letter about Darius for 2 pages, and then I have mine half a page, like if you are on admission committee, which of these two students are you going to take serious? So
Yeah.
yes, I know that back home that's the norm, but try and then breach that norm and then go to professors or faculty members who can really actually write about you. So me, what I did was that I most all the three professors that wrote my SOP, my recommendation letters for me, they told me to document whatever that I think they will need to write about me. And then I also attached my CV to it, because most of them, one had supervised my undergraduate research, one was my boss at work, and then I also done research with him. So and then the other professor was a visiting professor who knew also about me, so they could actually write, but I needed to also go the extra mile to help them to write very good stuff about me. So I needed to just document. So for Professor A, you should write about A, B, C, D about me. Professor D, you should also write about A, B, C, D about me. And then for all three of them, I attached my recommendation letters. And God being so good, I had 2-page recommendation letters from all three of them. Because one thing you would do, because they place so much emphasis on recommendation letters coming from your professors, because the recommendation letters you might not necessarily even get to see them, because the professors will send them directly to the school. So you should get professors who will also go out of their way to do that thing for you. And then it comes back to what Darius was talking about, relationship. How was your relationship with your professors when you were back home, when you were in school? How do you relate with them? Because if they know that you are a good person and then you've been relating with them very well, they would also want to go the extra mile, because it's not just about writing the thing. When they finish writing, they have to scan, convert it into PDF. And you know how some of our professors, they are not that technology inclined. So it might have to take something for them to go through this whole pain of getting all these things done for you. And then when they are done, they have to upload it on the website and all these things. So that's why I said that start early, so that when anything goes wrong, you will be able to rectify them before the deadline. Because when the deadline is up, you might not get the response that you were planning to get. And then one thing that just came up, when so if you want to apply to KNUST, it's just one website. You go there and then you see all the programs and then you just apply. But over here, the application system has been decentralized. So every department has its own website, or kind of. So you might not necessarily see a general application link for all the programs. So you have to narrow it down to your department. So if it's Department of Biomedical Science, when you type maybe UND Biomedical Sciences Department, and then the website of the department will pop up, and then you go, there will be an admission application link over there, and then that's what you use. So you cannot go and use application link for engineering when you intend to apply for biomedical science. So that's one thing that people should also know. Yeah.
And then as an international student, you have to keep in mind that there may be another level of
another. So when I was almost all the time that I was sending my emails to the program directors, I deliberately CC the international office, so that if there is anything that the international office should add, because sometimes, because when I was applying to UND, I had been told by the director of the admissions that because I'm coming from Ghana, I do not need TOEFL. TOEFL can be waived for me. But the international office, I don't know if it was a student who was on duty then, had told me that I would need to put in TOEFL. So you need to actually do these two